All right, the last thing we're going to talk about in this section is running automated tests. So for both these projects, our front-end and back-end project, I've written a bunch of unit and integration tests. So we can go to our, let's say, front-end directory and run npm test. All right, we have 9 beautiful passing tests. So let's press Q to get out of this. Good. So this is one way to run these tests, and that's how I like to run my tests. Now, I've seen some people run their tests inside a Docker container. I've done this before and found it to be very slow. We want our tests to run quickly so we can get rapid feedback as we are writing code. But in case you're curious, let me show you how you can run your tests inside a container. So back to our compose file. Here's the definition of our web service. I'm going to duplicate this and then rename the second instance to web tests. Now, we're not going to build a new image. We want to reuse an existing image, the image that was built for this service. So we're going to change the build property to image. Now, what is the name of the image? Vidly_web. Now, do we need ports? No, we don't, because we don't want to access the service directly, like accessing our web service. Delete. What about volumes? We want to keep this here, so any changes we make to our application code or our tests are immediately visible inside this container, okay? Now, here we're going to overwrite the default command for this image and run npm test. So, save the changes. Now, let's get out of the front-end directory and run docker compose up. All right, our application is up, and over here, you can see the output of our web tests container. So all of our tests are passing, but if you go to our application code and make a change, it takes a little while until these tests are rerun. I find this to be a little bit slow for my taste, but if you like this approach, by all means go for it. The good thing about this approach is that you don't need to open up different windows and run tests for front-end and back-end separately. So just like we defined a service called web tests, we can define another service called API tests. So when we start our application, both the front-end and back-end tests get executed, and we see the result all in one window. But again, this is a little bit too slow. So that's all about running tests. We reached the end of this section. In the next section, we're going to talk about deployment. So I will see you in the next section.